I finally moved out last summer. Wait a minute, Dom, 2017, 2016, so you were 25 when you moved out? Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't move out in college, okay? I was broke. My parents were like, "Ano? You want to move out? Huh? No, that's too expensive. You could just commute 2 hours both ways every day." What, every day? Yes, but that's like 4 hours every day. Every day. And yeah, they were right. On average, a decent apartment downtown was about $550 to $600 a month. A Go Bus monthly pass was about $80. I mean, yeah, I saved a couple $100 a month, but waking up at 5 a.m. just to make sure I'm in time for an 8 a.m. class that I fall asleep in because I only got 3 hours of rest, not really worth it in my opinion. And that is why you should try to make friends in college, because one of them is bound to have a place you can crash at when you have to build a 1 to 20 scale model of your architectural design and don't want to risk some random dude on the bus obliterating it because he didn't realize that his backpack was also a wrecking ball. Anyway, I left the nest. Pretty big milestone in my life. I really didn't have an emergency to move. I mean, some people really want their independence early, and some people want to save money by staying with their parents. Some people simply get kicked out. I won't judge. Living away can be pretty expensive. I was comfortable at home, but I knew I was capable of taking care of myself. I just thought it was finally time. My parents really pushed for not moving out and having to rent a place, but to just save up and put a good down payment to actually own one. And I'm pretty glad I saved up and waited. However, I think the move wasn't as dramatic as it should have been since my place is only like a 20-minute drive from my parents, but I still have my freedom. The actual move itself, though, was a pain. I like to think I didn't own that much, but you really don't know how much you actually have until you try to Tetris it into a U-Haul truck. The place I picked out is a pretty nice condo in the downtown area of my suburban city. I went through a good amount of listings before deciding because a lot didn't have the right room layout that I wanted, some didn't allow pets, some had an amazing view of the dumpsters in the alley. I know many people are pretty restricted when it comes to choosing a place, but this was my first owned home. I saved up. I'ma get what I want. The previous owner, we'll call him Dude What the Hell, renovated the place before selling it, so it pretty much looked like an IKEA model house. And I know this because when I went to IKEA to shop for furniture, I noticed some decorations and shelves that Dude What the Hell left behind when he moved out. But speaking of shelves, I don't think Dude What the Hell knew how to assemble and mount the shelves, or at least whoever he hired didn't. There was this shelf in the bedroom that I specifically asked Dude What the Hell to dismount before the closing date. It looked nice with the furniture he had, but I knew it wouldn't match mine. But when I moved in, what do I find? The damn shelf. I was already kind of annoyed by Dude What the Hell because he extended the closing date of the condo and was already late with moving out. So I just decided to make the best of it and just use the shelf until I decided to dismount it myself. One day I decided to put a paper flower basket on top of the shelf. And then in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, I just hear this loud thud that woke me up in a slight panic. I find the basket and one of the shelf pieces on the floor. I was too tired to deal with it, so I went back to bed. Totally could have been a murderer that knocked it over, but Nala wasn't barking at anything, so I trusted that I was safe. The next day I tried to figure out why it fell. I discovered that the shelf piece wasn't even nailed or screwed onto the support piece that was attached to the wall. In fact, it was simply glued on, judging by the ripped paint and no screw holes. So I decided to press lightly on the other shelf piece that was still attached. Didn't stay that way very long. The piece became loose as well and eventually detached. So I was left with this support piece that just looked like a total eyesore. I decided screw this shelf, figuratively, I want it gone. I tried looking for screw holes to figure out how I could dismount this off the wall. I couldn't find any. Tried to pull the piece off the wall, and then I realized the whole thing was glued on. So I was left with this dumbass block of wood stuck on the wall because I didn't want to ruin the paint and drywall underneath it. A couple of days later, I go to IKEA to look for a desk, passed by the shelving area, and lo and behold, I discovered the same damn shelf that Dude What the Hell installed on the wall. Or should I say, the same 2 shelves. Apparently, the pieces that were assembled together don't even belong to the same build. The smaller pieces are meant to be hooked onto screws in a wall, and the big piece is supposed to be mounted onto a protruding bracket that inserts into it. Dude, what the hell? You'd think that the moment you took out the glue, you should have realized that something was off and that you have veered away from the instructions intended for the shelf. I got a hunch that they actually knew how it was meant to be done, but were just too lazy to drill. Because later on, I decided to mount a TV on the same wall in my room, and the wall is concrete. And I don't know if you guys ever tried drilling into concrete, but it can be really annoying. And yes, I used a hammer drill with a proper drill bit. So I think whoever mounted the shelf just couldn't be bothered with drilling and just decided to glue it on. Definitely can't do that with a TV. Nevertheless, I do like my place overall. Great view of the city, convenient distance to nearby shops, and my neighbors are great. No, that's a lie. My neighbors aren't the most desirable of people. One specifically has caused my roommates and I much trouble, but that's a story for another day. Might be a little bit inappropriate, but I'll tell you guys about it sometime. My neighbor's a prostitute. My advice is, you don't really have to rush trying to move out. Unless it's really toxic at home and you really need to get away from your family, or you murdered someone, or you have work or school obligations that would be more beneficial if you moved out. But if your parents will let you stay home, save your rent money. Enjoy the homemade cooking while you still can. Not gonna lie, this was really just to complain about the glued shelf. Hey guys, this video has been brought to you by Crunchyroll. Head over to crunchyroll.com/Domics, link in the description, to receive a free premium membership for 30 days. That's a lot of time for some marathons. What perks do you get with premium? Well, ad-free and 1080p episodes as soon as 1 hour after release in Japan, not to mention they are professionally subtitled for your authentic Japanese experience. And there is also a convenient app on nearly every device. I know we just watched the beginning of Boku no Hero Academia with Jack, that was a lot of fun, but the show is actually getting deep into season 2 right now. Plenty of time to catch up within those 30 days. Again, that's crunchyroll.com/Domics, link below. Enjoy!